He's one of the most targeted leaders in the world today. President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso has become a marked man, not because of tyranny, but because of conviction. From Washington to Paris, powerful nations want him removed. Inside his own country, political elites and hidden traitors plot against him. Even some African leaders view him as a disruption to the status quo. But Traoré's only crime? Refusing to be controlled. He has challenged foreign influence, reclaimed national pride, and placed Burkina Faso's destiny above global interests. And for that, they want him gone, by any means necessary. But Traoré is not standing still. In the face of growing threats, he's now reinforcing his inner circle with a new advanced security network. What exactly is this system? And what does it say about the battles he's preparing for? It's no coincidence. There are powerful forces, local and global, that want Captain Ibrahim Traoré out of the picture. How else do you explain it? No other African leader, not one, has survived more than 15 assassination attempts in just 2 years. Since the day he took power in Burkina Faso, Traoré has been in a constant state of alert. No rest, no peace. Just coup attempt after coup attempt. This isn't just politics, this is war. A war against a man who represents something far bigger than a government. A man who has become a threat, not because of tyranny, but because of what he stands for. Some say it's simply the nature of military rule. But then, ask yourself, why haven't other military leaders in the Sahel faced this level of danger? Gabon, Chad, even Mali and Niger, none of their leaders have faced this frequency of internal plots or external pressure. So what makes Traoré different? He's not just a soldier, he's not just a president, he is the face of a revolution. Unofficially, he leads the AES alliance, and spiritually, he leads a movement. It was Traoré who first declared that the Sahel isn't just shifting, it's rising. It was his speech at the Russia-Africa summit that captured the hearts of Pan-African thinkers around the world. His fire, his vision, his unwavering defiance, that's what drew others to follow. And that is exactly why he's now the most wanted man in Africa, dead or alive. April 16th, 2025, a date that could have changed everything for Burkina Faso. Another plot, another attempt to eliminate President Ibrahim Traoré. And though the coup was foiled, the threat hasn't vanished, it's evolved. Those who want him gone are still out there, regrouping, planning, vowing to strike again. And now intelligence reports warn they're not done yet. They've promised to make their next move before June 2025. Where did they go? They fled. Not to the shadows, but to a neighboring country, Ivory Coast, a nation increasingly accused of collaborating with France in efforts to destabilize Burkina Faso. There, the traitors were welcomed, not as fugitives, but as allies. And under the quiet protection of Ivorian authorities, a new operations center has been set up. Their mission? Finish what they started. But Traoré isn't standing still. Faced with this escalating threat, the president has launched a bold countermeasure, something insiders are calling the lockdown doctrine. It's more than just heightened security. It's a full-scale reset of everything around him. People, procedures, priorities. Nothing is left to chance. Local reports describe it as a doctrine where loyalty outweighs rank, and surveillance replaces ceremony. The first major shift? A complete restructuring of the Presidential Guard, the elite force responsible for Traoré's protection. In a time where betrayal can come from within, this move isn't just necessary, it's survival. And as the air in Ouagadougou remains tense, one thing is clear. Traoré is preparing for the next attack. Think about it. If high-ranking officers within the Burkinabe military were willing to betray President Traoré, what's to say that betrayal hasn't already reached the heart of his own security? Some of these traitors didn't just defect, they paid fellow soldiers to stir chaos within the army. It's not hard to imagine that some of those soldiers might have been part of the Presidential Guard itself, and that's a risk Traoré cannot afford to take. To protect himself and the nation, Traoré made a decisive move. He has completely reconfigured the Presidential Guard. Teams were reshuffled, suspicious individuals were quietly removed, and in their place, only those who had proven their loyalty. But even loyalty wasn't enough. Every new recruit underwent a deep and invasive vetting process, far beyond routine background checks. Their school records, family connections, political leanings, and even international contacts were scrutinized. No stone was left unturned, Only those who passed every layer of this investigation were allowed to wear the uniform. Today, the Presidential Guard is no longer just elite. It is trusted, hand-picked, hardened, loyal. But Traoré didn't stop there. The betrayal of one man, Barry Abdrahmane, exposed another major vulnerability: the country's communication systems. This outdated infrastructure allowed traitors to transmit sensitive military intelligence to enemy forces without being detected. That loophole is now gone. Traoré has overhauled Burkina Faso's communication network, introducing encrypted systems designed to detect and track suspicious transmissions in real time. Now, any military personnel who dares to leak information or conspire against the state will be found. And this time, they won't get a second chance. As threats continue to mount, President Traoré has activated yet another layer of defense, one that had long been dormant. The Office of Internal Counterintelligence, once focused solely on external threats, has now been brought back to life. With a new mission, its scope has expanded. No longer just watching from the shadows beyond Burkina Faso's borders. It now turns its gaze inward. Every cabinet minister, every provincial commander, even local police chiefs, no one is exempt. Their political allegiances are being examined, their loyalties questioned. And if anyone is found to hold views that do not align with the vision of President Traoré, they are reassigned, far from the capital and far from power. To some, this may seem extreme, even paranoid, but in a region where betrayal often comes from within, paranoia is survival. History offers a brutal reminder. Thomas Sankara, a revolutionary icon, betrayed and assassinated by his closest ally, Blaise Compaoré, a friend, a fellow soldier. Traoré has learned from that. He's determined not to repeat it. But Traoré isn't just tightening control. He's deploying something far more unconventional, something few outside Burkina Faso truly understand: his secret weapon. From the very beginning of his leadership, Traoré established a civilian militia, a volunteer defense force made up of everyday Burkinabe citizens willing to fight for their country's future. They're known as the VDP, the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland. Trained, armed, and deeply loyal to Traoré, this group was created to protect villages from terrorist attacks. But now, they've grown into something more: a second layer of national defense, a buffer between the people and chaos, a force untouched by the colonial loyalties that still linger within parts of the traditional army. In the wake of the latest coup attempt, Traoré is repositioning the VDP, not just as village defenders, but as a shield around the revolution itself, and perhaps the final line of defense for the man who has become the face of it. Now mobilized and restructured, the VDP has been deployed across Burkina Faso, strategically positioned in key administrative and military centers. But they're not just standing guard, they've become something more. Their new mission? Act as watchdogs, as spies, reporting any suspicious movement or unusual behavior directly to the presidency. These civilian defenders, fiercely loyal to Traoré, are now his eyes and ears across the nation. Their presence means that any attempt to conspire, organize, or betray will be detected early. What was once a volunteer militia fighting terrorists is now an internal immune system, designed to respond instantly to threats from within. But Traoré didn't stop there. Under his instruction, the Ministry of the Interior has quietly launched a new biometric tracking program. On the surface, it's a national registration effort, but beneath that, it serves a far more targeted purpose. According to reports from within Burkina Faso's intelligence network, this system will track the movements of individuals flagged as potential threats, both civilian and military. Those connected to the April 16th plot are now being monitored. Every movement, every meeting, every phone call. It's a new era of surveillance, and not everyone approves. Critics, especially from outside the country, have taken to social media, accusing Traoré of becoming a power-hungry dictator, consolidating control through fear and technology. But for Traoré's supporters, this is nothing new. They've seen the attacks, they've witnessed the betrayals, and as Traoré himself has said, Burkina Faso is not a democracy, it is a revolution, and revolutions are not built on comfort. They are built on vigilance, sacrifice, and survival. According to President Ibrahim Traoré, no country has ever achieved true development through democracy alone. In his eyes, the great powers of today, those leading in industry, technology, and sovereignty, did not rise through peaceful elections. They rose through revolutions, through bold leadership that defied the norm. And for Traoré, Burkina Faso is no different. This, he says, is not a democracy. This is a revolution. And with every revolution comes resistance. There are those, both inside and outside the country, who detest this idea. They fear what Traoré represents, because what he envisions is change, and they thrive on the status quo. These are the people who are content with Burkina Faso being ranked among the poorest nations on earth, content with the insecurity that continues to ravage the country, content with the corruption that has gripped its institutions for decades. If they truly wanted change, they wouldn't be trying to eliminate the man who's fighting for it. For the elites inside Burkina Faso, the current chaos means easy access to power and profit. For foreign actors, it's even more sinister. Burkina Faso's weak state allows for unfiltered access to the country's natural resources and to the Sahel's untapped wealth. But Traoré's rise changed everything. With a vision of a secure, sovereign, and industrialized Burkina Faso, he threatens to close the gates they've kept open for years. And that's why, from the very beginning, they've tried to remove him, by any means necessary. Between September 2022, when he first came to power, and September 2023, 4 coup attempts were launched against him. They failed. But in an unexpected move, Traoré chose mercy over vengeance. He spared them. No prison, no trials. Instead, he gave them a warning. Distance yourselves, or be consumed by what's coming. But that first coup was only the beginning. The second and third followed quickly, both unfolding within the same month, October 2023. This time, Traoré took a different approach. There were no warnings, no second chances. Arrests were made, investigations launched. From October 2023 to September 2024, Burkina Faso became a nation under siege, not just from outside enemies, but from within its own ranks. Plot after plot, attempt after attempt. By the time the 10th coup attempt was uncovered, the situation had become even more dire. This one wasn't just political, it was terroristic. Intelligence reports traced the conspiracy to Paul-Henri Damiba, the former junta leader, now in exile in Togo. From afar, Damiba coordinated with known terrorist factions, received silent support from authorities in Ivory Coast, and activated sleeper cells within the Burkina Faso military still loyal to him. The result? A deadly assault that left soldiers and civilians dead. A brutal reminder that the war against Traoré is not just about power, it's about the very soul of Burkina Faso. Damiba's plot went deeper than anyone expected. He organized soldiers from within the Burkina Faso ranks, men who had sworn an oath to protect, now collaborating with terrorists. Using sensitive military intelligence, they orchestrated an attack on Barcelogo, a strategic town, dangerously close to the capital, Ouagadougou. The assault was brutal. Hundreds of soldiers and civilians were killed. The town fell. But this wasn't just a military strike, it was a psychological operation, aimed at undermining Traoré's authority, questioning his security reforms, and sowing division within the armed forces. The ultimate goal? Mutiny, chaos, collapse. But the plan failed. Some of the conspirators were arrested. The rest? Scattered. Since then, more attempts have come, and each one has failed. But they all share a common trait: foreign fingerprints. Again and again, external actors emerge behind the scenes, fueling instability, funding dissent, weaponizing betrayal. And that's why Traoré's recent security overhaul isn't just a precaution, it's a strategic necessity. Because this is no longer about politics. This is not personal. This is war. A war against hidden enemies, against traitors, against a system that has long profited from Burkina Faso's suffering. And for Traoré, protecting himself isn't just about survival. It's about defending a vision for the future, a future where Burkina Faso finally breaks free. Isn't it a bit sad that someone like Traoré, who's trying to bring real change, has to go to such extreme lengths just to stay safe? Why can't people just let him do what he set out to do? It's obvious his job isn't going to be easy. He's up against terrorism and internal conflicts. With all that going on, how can the fight against terrorism really succeed? What's even more frustrating is that it's not just about physical threats. Traoré is also facing a wave of attacks from the media, and honestly, that might be even more dangerous. The media is incredibly powerful. It shapes how people think. A single comment from a major outlet can influence millions, even billions, and spread fear, anger, or mistrust. And unfortunately, those who want Traoré out know this and are using it to their advantage. Lately, it feels like Traoré's been targeted more than any other leader. Not just criticized, but constantly smeared with fake news. Every time he shows up in Western media, it's always negative. It's like these reporters have selective memory. But then again, maybe it's not that surprising. At the end of the day, they're just pushing what benefits the West. Just a few weeks ago, the US commander of AFRICOM came out with a bold accusation, claiming that President Traoré is using Burkina Faso's gold to protect himself. Seriously? We all know that's not true. In fact, Traoré has made it a point to use the country's resources for the benefit of the people, not for personal gain. And even if some of that gold was used for security, let's be honest, isn't that his right? He's fighting off constant threats. Why does the US feel the need to meddle every time an African leader decides to stand up for his country? But it doesn't stop there. Another article claimed Traoré is enriching himself with national wealth. Honestly, that's laughable. We've seen what corruption looks like in Africa. Leaders living in luxury, flying private jets, shopping in Paris, while their people suffer. But Traoré? He's not cut from that cloth. If he were stealing, we'd see the signs. We'd see it in his wardrobe, in the flashy cars, in the massive mansions. But none of that exists. Traoré still dresses simply. He drives what he needs to, not what he wants to show off. He stays grounded, in every sense of the word. And let's not forget, if he were truly enriching himself, he'd be traveling constantly like so many others. But he's not. He stays in Burkina Faso, facing the problems, walking among the people, and doing the real work. You don't see that often, and that's exactly why they're afraid of him. Let's be honest, this is just another desperate attempt to turn people against President Traoré. At one point, there were headlines everywhere claiming that Traoré was targeting and killing a specific ethnic group in Burkina Faso, the Fulanis. They said he had grown so frustrated that he made the Fulanis the new focus of a military strategy. That claim? It sparked protests, especially among Burkina citizens living in France. Some even went as far as demanding that he step down. But just like the accusations about gold and corruption, it was all a lie. Traoré's government never targeted the Fulani people. If there had been such a campaign, the journalists inside Burkina Faso, the ones who live it, breathe it, and walk those streets every day, would have reported it. But they didn't. Instead, the people pushing this narrative are outside the country. They're commentators, media houses, and so-called analysts who have never even set foot in Burkina Faso. And yet they're the loudest voices. But here's the thing. We, as Africans, can't sit back and let this kind of misinformation go unchecked. It's our responsibility to make sure the truth is heard. We can't allow our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, like the Burkina in France, to be manipulated by stories written thousands of miles away. President Traoré may not be perfect, but he's one of the few leaders who's actually fighting for change. Not just for Burkina Faso, but for Africa as a whole. If Traoré is removed from power, or worse, assassinated, this revolution could come to an end. And let's be honest, it might be years, maybe even decades, before we see a leader like him again. Remember what happened after Thomas Sankara? He was killed, and for decades, Africa waited. Waited for someone brave enough to stand up, someone bold enough to challenge the system. Traoré is that someone. He's not just a hope for Burkina Faso, he's a symbol of hope for the entire continent. He proves that Africa can raise leaders who are patriotic, principled, and committed to real change. But instead of rallying around him, some people are working to bring him down. They've sold their loyalty, not to their country, but to foreign interests. They're trying to destroy the very future they claim to care about. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part of it all? Ivory Coast, a fellow African nation, is allegedly helping to destabilize Burkina Faso. But with these new security measures in place, maybe, just maybe, it'll be enough to protect him, enough to keep the revolution alive. What do you think?